Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our information session about the UBSS qualifications. I have Cyril and Dimitri joining us from UBSS, and I know we've got Andrew and Marcella, and a number of other people will no doubt watch the recording. I will just start with a little bit of background about why we're doing this as an association, and I'll just see if I can quickly share my screen. So as an association, we have a number of programs that we deliver. In coming on board roughly 16 to 18 months ago, I looked at our member value proposition and worked with the board on strategically, what we wanted the future to look like. And we pulled out a number of key ways that we add value to our members and our partners: professional development, insights, profile, connection, and purpose. And kind of within that professional development piece, we saw, this leadership stream as something that we wanted to expand, and having qualifications to elevate the leadership within the industry was something that we wanted to explore. Enter UBSS as a wonderful partner, and in addition to the existing programs that we have, we wanted to create a partnership that enabled our members to come into the existing cohorts they had. And in the instance, if it was so popular, we could have our own cohorts, but certainly wanted to just create leadership capability, qualifications and training that meant that as an industry, we were bolstering that capability across the board. So this particular qualification was a standout for us because it's in executive learning mode, and more recently they've actually fine-tuned the duration of that. But certainly UBSS is a very practical university that recognises that there is a certain level of understanding already with professionals and that they're busy. So the mode means that, there's certain materials that are needed, and then in the lead up, there's some online training, and then there's essentially a weekend workshop, and a lot of that learning happens there as well. So just wanted to take a little bit of time to go through the background and the why the RSL and Services Clubs Association is branching out into this partnership, and also the why we chose to partner with UBSS. Another by-the-by reason is it's an affordable option, and so we wanted to ensure that that was something that was accessible to clubs, whether or not they're regional or metro. The mode is generally capital city based, so most of our clubs will be based in New South Wales, and so Sydney CBD is where the workshops are held. But equally, if you have staff in other locations, or if they're happy to travel to access a workshop in another state because it's being held there sooner, then there's always that option in a number of other states. So we'll talk about the New South Wales workshops, but certainly there are subjects and dates available elsewhere. So that's always an option as a backup. With regards to the subjects and the different qualifications, there's everything from a graduate certificate, which is 4 subjects, going right through to an MBA, which is 16 subjects. Isn't that right, Cyril? And so people might want to do a bit of a taster of that graduate certificate, but they might want to continue right through to the MBA. And right from the graduate certificate through to the MBA, there are some RPL or required prior learning exemptions, or you can apply for that, and we'll touch on that a little bit. That will be relevant probably for most people, because Cyril will correct me in a minute, but there can be a qualification component, but also an experience component to that. So that may be of interest for some people who have either studied before or have been working for some time, and so that might be of appeal to them. So in terms of, I think Kylie shared with everyone upcoming subjects. We have particular subjects that we thought would be a good fit with our industry. Things like management attributes and skills, project management, organisational behaviour, either accounting systems and processes or financial management. But equally, there is a long list of subjects, whether or not it's corporate strategy, business law, innovation, strategic business, entrepreneurship, brand development, marketing new products. So for some core club roles, they might follow a more traditional subject set, but, you know, whether or not CCEP or anyone else has a genuine interest or general interest in something else, you can pretty much pick whichever subjects you like. Like I said, originally we set out thinking we'd have these distinct industry cohorts, but I think allowing that flexibility for people to pick what they want. And then if we do have enough of a cohort, we can do some online case studies that sit outside the regular program. So there, I might hand over to Cyril to do a little bit of a general intro, and then we might tackle some questions. And Dimitri's joining us because he's teaching the next subject and also has a background in, well, certainly hospitality, or, you know, that general industry. So he's a particularly qualified lecturer in our particular industry. So Cyril, do you want to tell us a little bit about the qualifications and a few other highlights?
For nearly 40 years, I've been teaching the MBA. When I was at university around the corner from where I'm at the moment, I had 40 to 60 students that couldn't even see the back of the room. We said we don't want that. We want to have small cohorts so we can actually get to know the individuals and make sure that they walk away with a good education. And so my mantra is very, very much so that what you learn today, you can apply tomorrow. That's the first one. And the second one is that we try to make the learning engaging so it's easy to learn. In other words, we want the learning to stick. So originally we only had a long weekend, and now we've changed it. So we've got 3 individual weeks beforehand. So an hour 3 weeks beforehand, an hour 2 weeks beforehand, an hour 1 week before. The whole purpose of that is to introduce the student to the subject. So the first of the 3 weeks is just a general broad education of what's happening. The second week will be covering the first day, which is the Saturday. And the third week, that hour and a half, will be covering the Sunday contents. We always have a guest speaker. So we will have, we've got management attributes and skills. Dimitri will be covering that. He'll be teaching that. So we might get him to talk about that. But in any event, we have a guest speaker. Guest speaker comes in. Now, Margot and I have been talking about this. So what we thought we might do is we'll have case studies which will be RSL orientated and some which are not. And actually, it's a good idea because when Dimitri and I were together last year when we did the accounting systems and processes, we did it for a particular industry, but we had one person from a mining industry. And it was actually very good to have a mixture of different industries so you can see how things work. So we'll have a guest speaker, and that's the weekend. Now, the assessment, they have to give a class presentation. So if someone gives a class presentation on what they're doing in club X, Y, Z, whatever it is, in New South Wales, not a problem, that's fine. Dimitri and I had a chat about it. We're happy to customize the assessment. So instead of having general assessment, we'll keep that general assessment, but also add a few extra items on for those who wish to use a sort of RSL type situation. And what we're happy to do is to send you the assessment. You can have a look at it and talk about that. So I really wasn't going to say much more, except to say we really are working very hard to ensure that what you learn today is you pick up tomorrow. What you learn today you can use tomorrow, and we want to make it the learning user-friendly and to be able to pick it up. And we also want people to be engaged because it makes it more fun for us as teachers and also for the people. Now, I got no problem in anyone just wanting to do one subject. They'll say, oh, I've always really had to know a bit about the law. I want to do business law. Hey, it's fine. They can come in just for one subject. They can come for a few more. Now, my advice to you is a person who's got 10 years plus experience, they get recognition of prior learning. You've been around a bit, we'll give you 2 subjects. Now, the first qualification is a graduate certificate in business administration. You need four subjects for that. But if you've got 2 up your sleeve already, you only need to do two subjects. And Margot can, or Kyla can send you out the list of dates. Now, when I worked out these dates, we've got Sydney, Melbourne, Adelaide, and Brisbane. They're all 1 week apart. I think we had one difficulty with Easter somewhere, but they're all 1 week apart. So if suddenly the boss says, look, you've got to have an understanding of corporate strategy, and the next one is Dimitri is doing that in study period 3, which is 9th, 10th, and 11th June. Dimitri, just go down and see Dimitri. So we can do that, because you also do one in Sydney and in Melbourne, or that way. So that they're all professionally run. We've got experts in all the areas. The accounting systems and processes. The problem with that, it's not a very good title for it. Should it be more like financial management? But that title is being taken away for working on the stock exchange and things like that. Probably a bit beyond the scope of what your members would need. But the accounting systems and processes actually would be a good one for people who have to understand the movement of money, the cash, how to read the balance sheet, not prepare the balance sheet and the financial statements, because you get the accountant to do it. Yeah, we'll certainly show you how it is, but the idea is to be able to interpret them, understand. You're a senior manager, what do these things mean? So that might be a good subject. Definitely Dimitri's one, accounting, management attributes and skills. Then we've got accounting systems and process. Then we have business law this year, for those who need to know a bit about it, organization behavior, and financial management. That might be a little bit beyond the scope, because that's heavy stock exchange type material, which some people need to know about. Just going back to what can you expect? Well, you need to pass 16 subjects, successfully pass. However, you can get exemptions. You can get exemptions for just being around the place. Well, after 10 years, you would have learned quite a lot. So we give you two recognition of prior learnings. If you've done some MBA subjects in the past and within the last 10 years, we'll give you, let's say you've done 4 successfully, we'll give you those 4. Okay? Now, the other rule is that for the graduate certificate, the graduate diploma, and the MBA, you can't give you more than 50% as a credit. I think that's an Australia-wide rule by the regulator. So therefore, if you've got 4 credits, take 2 on the graduate certificate. That means you only need to do 2 subjects to bring it to the 4. And take another 2 subjects plus the 2 credits, you'll get your graduate diploma. In reality, you can actually knock off quite a lot of the course. Just in summary, the MBA is actually quite good. Really, basically wherever you go, it's quite good. With us, we keep it small cohorts, and that's actually a little bit better still, because we take care of each person just to make sure that they're right, rather than just being a number there. And we've got a good cohort in Melbourne and Sydney. Adelaide's still growing, and Brisbane's still growing. The good thing about Brisbane, we've got Dimitri up there, so if any people are interested, they can talk to him or whatever. So that's a bit of a summary.
Cyril.
Can I help you?
I feel like we're already cutting down subjects before we've even started. We're talking down how many subjects everyone has to do.
If anyone wants to know, but reality is there's no reason why a person can't say, listen, I only want to do one corporate strategy. I only want to do something occupational health and safety, or whatever it is. But just one or 2. But and I know I sound like a bit of a salesman, but honestly, if you're going to do one and you've got RPL, well, you might as well do 2 and get a graduate certificate. At least you've got a hang on the wall graduate certificate, and just do 2 and just leave it like that.
Yeah, thank you. We might move over to Dimitri now. Dimitri, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, and with your you're the lecturer for the upcoming management attributes and skills. Maybe a little bit of an overview of that and what people can expect.
Sure. Look, thank you, Margot, and look, thank you, Cyril, for covering a lot of that. Ladies and gentlemen, lovely to meet you all, and I think I bring a unique lens to this conversation. I've had quite a diverse career, and for me, I approached this program in a couple of different ways. First of all, like what you're all wanting to work through with this initiative, I approached UBSS initially. So just so for the purposes of clarity, everyone can understand, so I'm presently an adjunct professor with UBSS, and I'm a fellow of their Centre for Entrepreneurship, and I do a lot of mentoring and coaching with individuals and groups around leadership and management, as well as entrepreneurship. But in my previous role, I was CEO of the Australasian College of Pharmacy. So my history has very much been about leadership and management, and in different fields. I did have some time over in the Venetian in Macau, so that's where my hospitality background comes from. So I did spend a couple of years over in the Venetian, which is the largest casino in the world, the second most profitable, the first being the Marina Bay Sands. But I had a wonderful operation of over 100 staff from 16 different cultures there, and it was amazing when you're part of a $14.9 billion operation, you see the world very differently. But more relevantly to what we're all talking to here, so I, first of all, in the previous role I had at the College of Pharmacy, I had identified that pharmacists were in desperate need of additional education, particularly around the business world, because they might have a 5-year degree and can tell you all about the molecules that are in the Pfizer jab that you're about to get for your COVID vax. But when it comes to where they want to talk about the retail elements of their store, what they need to sell, how they need to sell, when they're looking square meterage, all of the various nuts and bolts around business, many of them were wanting extra support. There was an organisation, and my organisation's antecedent, the Australian Institute of Pharmacy Management, had offered diploma courses. I came to the party and said, listen, diploma courses, whilst they do have some relevance and had more gravitas in previous years, nowadays we really are talking a higher level of qualification on the AQF wheel, the Qualifications Framework wheel. And that's when I knew of this executive MBA that UBSS were doing because of my connection. I had ultimately said, listen, can we bring a pharmacy-specific or more of a pharmacy-centred style MBA to our industry and provide exactly the conversation we're having here, but in the pharmacy context? And we essentially set that up. We ran it in Brisbane last year. We found that, look, when you're trying to deal with a very already extended market, as in you have pharmacists that were trying to work through COVID, deal with staff shortages, deal with extenuating circumstances around what they needed to do. They were limited for what they could have as their additional areas of interest, and particularly for extra time that they had, what they would do with that extra time. So they said, rather than us focusing on a full MBA, let's focus primarily on getting a grade cert underway. And for the individuals that did have the commitment, if they weren't already assigned to pharmacy ownership of 3 or 4 pharmacies, and they could have more the ability to undertake a full MBA, they would. So we started this process. It was a great success in Brisbane and some of the pharmacists around the country. My former chair of the board and another gentleman have continued, I believe, in Sydney and Melbourne. We had a gentleman in Brisbane last year who was one of the gentlemen from the mining sector. I saw him in Adelaide last week. So I last weekend delivered corporate strategy in Adelaide and ran into him down there. So it was great to see him. Previous to that, I was in Adelaide doing management attributes and skills again, and I saw another student doing a Sydney-based subject. So the ability and the benefit that we have by what UBSS is offering with this multiplicity of campuses is that you can accelerate, you can jump, you can work to your schedule. If you've got deadlines and you need to miss one, do the next one, you can have that flexibility. When I did my AICD Company Directors course, I had a choice to do my assessment at the time, or I could have focused on keeping my organisation's doors open because the feds decided to make an initiative that would see my entire student population base diminished. So I had to just go underground, spend 3 weeks lobbying the feds to get an exemption. I didn't have the flexibility of saying, I'm just going to hold on my assessment or do this course again in a month's time. I basically had to let go of the assessment and just focus purely on undertaking the course. But UBSS have a great way that you can manage workloads, schedules, and that ability to have that multiple campus avenue open to you. It's great. So that's, I suppose, just an additional element I wanted to bring in, just in the sense of being through this process in a parallel way. I've had a couple of executive roles. So for me, having 2 CEO roles under my belt, plus some international leadership experience, it's a wonderful opportunity for me to come in with a doctorate. I got my doctorate nearly 20 years ago, which makes me feel very old. But the wonderful thing is that I always wanted to come back into academia after having had tried the boards. And I very much enjoy the 2 subjects I do. Management skills is one, because for me, Cyril gave a couple of sound bites that he likes to talk to when he opens a subject. And for me, I want to assign all of my teaching that I do down to 2 sound bites of my own. The first one is I want to ensure that everyone does the best they possibly can in my subjects and ensure that their engagement is at its maximum. And number 2, I want to find that whatever content we're doing across any subject, that there is a direct reference and relevance to everyone's profession. So whether it's corporate strategy, management skills, individual units within that, that we find a way that you can directly relate it to what your area of expertise is, or what your interest is, or what might apply to you once you walk out of that classroom. Because at the end of the day, you'll do 2 days with us, and it's a wonderful, very intense 2 days, filled with a lot of coffee, a lot of good food, and a lot of sugar, just to make sure everyone's keeping up with what we're doing at the fast pace that we are. But the thing is, when you walk out of the door, Monday morning hits, your P&L lands on your desk, you're dealing with staff issues, human resource issues, all sorts of other issues, you can just get back into that standard 9 to 5. And I want to make sure that at least what we do, whether it doesn't carry on immediately after the Monday that you see us, it is there, you are retaining it. We, from an academic perspective, will cover theories and principles that you might not all draw on immediately, but they're there in your arsenal to put in over time. And we'll talk to everything from, in this next subject, moral and ethical leadership. We're going to talk to leader as an individual, leading change, leading teams, developing leadership diversity, motivation and empowerment. So there's going to be a lot of broad subjects, and also a favourite unit of mine, corporate governance. So, and not to sound like the nerd in the room, and Cyril, being the accountant and lawyer, always loves it whenever I say that, but governance is one of my favourite topics, and we certainly do bring some of that in as well. And I at least bring my lens of, in both my CEO roles I've had prior to this, present role that I'm in, reporting to boards of directors of both government-owned, not-for-profit entities that report to multiple regulators. So there's a lot of different lenses that we look at this through. So anyway, that's probably my overview.
Thank you, Dimitri.
Happy to help where possible.
Thank you. And in terms of commitment, you know, there would be a certain amount of text in terms of textbook, is that right? And then the online courses and the face-to-face. So how many hours do you say per subject is a commitment from each, and assessments and those sorts of things? What's the time commitment from an hours per subject perspective, would you say?
Really depends on the participant, the student. And I find sometimes they've got families and they can't put too much in. Certainly, let's work backwards. They've got the 2 days, the Saturday and the Sunday, and they've got an hour and a half. What we do is, I'll just use as an example Dimitri's subject. On the 6th of March, we give access to the materials. We ask them to do a bit of reading. And on the 13th, 20th, and 27th of March, that's where we have 1.5 hour sessions. We ask them to do some reading pre and post. Then we've got the 2 full-time days, 1st and 2nd of April. And then there would be, I'd say, a weekend's work, to be honest, for the assessments. So it's probably about 10 to 12 hours on the assessment. Depends on some people like to do a very thorough job of research. So I know I'm sounding vague, but it
that's
depends.
right. How big is the readings? Like
the readings are not look, we don't want to inundate people. Let me say this to you. And I've been in this game for a long, long time. And in other subjects, I see the professor would provide a textbook, 700 pages. and you need three PhDs to read it. Well, what happens in our case, we've written a lot of stuff. I've written the accounting book and the legal book and another one. And we've got the PowerPoints all done. What we try to do is just keep it simple. A lot of the times the materials be provided, so there's no real extra cost. There is a cost in certain areas, but we don't want this esoteric stuff. We want to have, as both Dimitri and I have said, we want to be able to read the stuff and pick it up and be able to use it straight away. So yes, there is a bit of reading involved, but it's not excessive. In my opinion, it's not excessive. Dimitri, did you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I think I certainly support that from Cyril's perspective, because again, I look at this through the commercial lens, and I look at this as in my day-to-day. I don't have time to do a lot of that reading outside of my professional workload. So if I were looking at this, again, the requirement is for each of those 3 sessions that there is familiarity. Certainly where possible, you're working through as much of the content to create that level of understanding. So when you are sitting in for the 2 days, you have that preparation, but it's nothing like an AICD company directors course where, and for those of you that have done it, you'll know that the 2 folders are about this high, about 25 centimetres worth of material, and you must have read it all before you walk in for your 5-day course. It's nothing like that. The content is relevant. Yes, there are theories that we're presenting and we're wanting everyone to be across, no matter what your content is. But at the end of the day, the content has been designed so that it can be delivered to executives in that executive mind. So you're approaching this with that directorial mindset, that executive mindset, the conversations, the case studies, the ways around the room that we are working through the content, ensure that we're reinforcing the processes and everyone is across the various different points we're working to. So look, it's certainly manageable and it's been customised with that in mind from the preparation before the sessions all the way through to the delivery during the sessions.
Just one extra thing is using different words. I'm saying the same thing, using different words. I train as a lawyer and accountant in very specific areas. And I teach a lot of subjects and I still run an accounting and legal practice. The way I work in the way I do my work is that I have warning bells which ring in my mind when I'm in trouble or I need to do something. Said another way again, I always like to look at the skeleton, and that's the way I teach. I give lots of diagrams, simplistic areas. If you can understand the skeleton, then you add the flesh. What I see in these 800-page textbooks which they give you, which is next to incomprehensible, you get all this flesh, but you can't see how it all fits together. So it's really, really important. You get the skeleton, and we'll work on that, do some case studies around that, and add a little bit of flesh just so you know what's happening so you can go and talk to someone else. Just while we're there, we need to be careful to be current. For example, one of the many important current issues is ESG. It's environmental, social, and governance. And so all my sessions and everywhere I've spoken to all the lecturers, we need to bring in the current things. So we just give people an understanding of the real world and where the problems lie.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll manage the enrolments for our students. So yes. Anyone who's interested, go through Kylie. The start date materials are by the 6th of March. So let Kylie know well before then and we'll kind of go through that enrolment process. What documentation is required for applying for RPL, Cyril?
First of all, we'll step back. We need to enrol the student, which is important. And so what I can do is I can actually get Charlotte, who's our administrator, to send you an email with the required documents. For example, if the person has a degree, they'll need to have a certified copy of the degree, all the sort of stuff you expect. And then just to say, look, I've got 12 years experience working such and such. We'll take that, so I'll get Charlotte to write out to you and Kylie a list of what we need from each person, and to give us a few days too, because what happens is that the 6th of March is a Monday. If they come to us on the 6th of March, it'll take a couple of days to get all the stuff going. So preferably a week before, so we can get it going, because we have to give them computer access, because there's a system called Moodle. Basically, it's just a portal. You go in, all the materials are sitting there. Now, what I've said to all the lecturers, I like to call them facilitators, because we really are facilitating rather than lecturing. I said to them, when you send out your welcome letter, send all the reading out for the first 2 weeks, because some people just cannot log on for whatever reason, just so not to hold people up.
No problem.
And by the way, there are eight compulsory. See, you can't see it, but there are 8 compulsory subjects, and we're just finishing a book at the moment with a summary of each of them. So I've finished the business law one, and I've finished the accounting systems and processes, and a couple of other ones we've finished. And so what we do is we give a 20-page summary, just a quick little summary of a page and a half, 2 pages each, on some of the main topics, just to get people a feel of it. That's to give them the skeleton, because otherwise you could sit there, like I've done in my university study, sit there, I don't know what the hell's going on in this subject. And that's wrong. That's not education at all, because we're dealing with senior executives, and they don't want to waste their time.
It's like a test. Okay, so a week before the 6th of March is actually next Monday. So if anyone's thinking about it, then send your expression of interest to Kylie, so we can move through that enrolment process ASAP. Marcella, Andrew, did you have any questions for Cyril, Dimitri, or ourselves?
I have. Andrew, do you want to go first, or you?
Oh, you're right. We can't hear you.
Sorry. Yeah, the guys have pretty much covered off everything I had, so thank you for the brief.
No problem, thank
If
you.
you have any questions, just give me a call or an email, because time is a bit short, or any questions at all. Only too happy to help.
I guess for my part, Margot, Kylie, the main thing is my understanding correct that there isn't online learning? You actually have to be there in person at these particular dates and these times?
That's right. So there's online learning of an hour and a half for sort of 3 sessions before the face-to-face. Right. And then that face-to-face workshop is on a weekend. So it's
limited. It's not like 10 weeks of every night. It's just 3 sessions at 1.5.
Yeah, there's 1.5 times 3 for 3 weeks online, 1.5 hours, and then the weekend face-to-face, which is in a Sydney CBD hotel. Yeah, and then the assessment. So that's it, really.
Okay.
So yeah, it's executive learning mode. It's
easy.
Yeah,
that's the objective. Make it easy to learn. Nice hotel, nice food, relax. 4 sessions a day of an hour and a half each. You have a break, learn. The idea is to let it all sink in and understand how it really works.
And one of the assessments is completed while you're there in that weekend, and they're one of the major assessments. And the other one is submitted 2 weeks after the finish date. So that's how it's broken.
I guess I understand now, Cyril, when I got the email back saying I could easily complete 8 subjects in 1 year, I was thinking, really? Okay.
Okay, well, any other questions? No. Anyone who's watching the recording, if you have any questions, please send them through to Kylie or myself. And without any other extended questions, I'll thank you, Dimitri, and thank you, Cyril, and thank you, Andrew and Marcella, for attending.